On March 30th, the Iranian Parliament's National Security Committee approved the bill on charging vessels passing the Strait of Hormuz. The plan includes implementing financial arrangements and a fee system in Iranian rials. It will prohibit American and Israeli ships from passing through the Strait of Hormuz. It will maintain Iran and its armed forces dominance. It will prohibit passage for ships from countries imposing unilateral sanctions on Iran. Iran will cooperate with Oman to establish a legal framework. Such a bill, if Trump can endure it, is no different from surrendering. Besides the brainless MAGA believers, everyone knows he lost. Recently, the situation surrounding the blockade of the Strait of Hormuz has seen information flipping back and forth. This video aims to summarize and analyze the situation. On March 26th, Trump vowed during a cabinet meeting that the Iranian side had proposed a few days ago to allow 8 ships to pass through the Strait of Hormuz. He later learned from news reports that 8 ships flying the Pakistani flag passed through the strait. Subsequently, 2 more ships passed through the strait, bringing the total to 10 ships passing. Trump claimed negotiations found the right person. However, by March 27th, the situation had reversed. The Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps issued a statement saying they persuaded 3 container ships attempting to pass the Strait of Hormuz to turn back that day. The announcement stated that President Trump falsely claimed the Strait of Hormuz was open. 3 container ships of different nationalities tried to enter the designated passage for licensed vessels. After receiving a warning from the Revolutionary Guard Navy, they turned back. The announcement stated that the Strait of Hormuz is now closed, prohibiting any vessels from entering or leaving ports in the US and allied ports of Israel. Anyone attempting unauthorized passage through the Strait of Hormuz will face severe measures. However, this announcement should not mean a complete closure of Strait of Hormuz, mainly targeting ships from or heading to us and allied Israeli ports. So after a day, the situation changed again. So things changed again after a day. Report on March 28th, Thailand's Prime Minister Anutin said, to address the crisis of rising oil prices in Thailand due to the situation in the Middle East, the Thai Ministry of Foreign Affairs has been actively communicating with relevant countries recently, according to the agreement reached with Iran so far. Thai cruise ships can safely pass through the Strait of Hormuz. Malaysian Foreign Minister Mohammed said on the 28th, the Iranian government has allowed several cruise ships stranded in the Strait of Hormuz to Malaysian cruise ships pass through, but still need to wait for an appropriate passage window. Iran's semi-blockade against the United States and Israel and their allies may last for a long time, because Iran has tasted the benefits of blocking the Strait of Hormuz. Iran currently is the only one that can normally use the Strait of Hormuz, Middle East's main oil exporting country. Crude oil exports remain at the pre-war level of 1.6 million barrels per day. Ships carrying crude oil are still loading at Kharg Island and crossing the strait. It is reported, since the outbreak of the US-Iran war, Iran has earned an additional approximately $24 million per day through oil sales due to previous US sanctions. Iran's crude oil had to be sold at a discount. But after the outbreak of this war, due to the external shortage of crude oil, the Trump administration has turned a blind eye to Iran selling oil. Therefore, the discount on Iran's light crude oil relative to the international benchmark, Brent crude, the lowest level in a year. This discount was more than $10 before the war, besides increasing oil sales revenue. Iran also plans to impose regular fees for passing through the Strait of Hormuz. The Tasnim news agency reported on the 26th, the Iranian parliament is drafting a law to charge passage fees for ships passing through the Strait of Hormuz, Peace stated. The plan to charge passage fees is also to legalize Iran's regulation of the Strait of Hormuz. Previously reported, informed sources said, fees will be charged on a temporary basis per passage, up to $2 million per voyage, which effectively set up an informal toll on the waterway. Reports indicate it is understood that at least 2 ships have paid the fee. It actually amounts to an informal toll on this waterway, establishing a kind of informal toll. Reports have stated it is understood that at least 2 ships paid fees in exchange for safe passage. Among them a ship, an additional ultra-large oil tanker with 2 million barrels of crude oil, paid $2 million, with only a $1 premium per barrel. Iran, which has long benefited, more and more high-ranking officials have begun to speak out. March 29, Iran's first vice president, Arif, stated, Iran plans to reform the management system of the Strait of Hormuz to gain long-term economic and security benefits. March 30, a member of Iran's parliament, National Security and Foreign Policy Committee, Aladdin Barojerdi, stated, in view of the current international security situation and external threats, Iran is seriously considering withdrawing from the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty and plans to impose stricter access and fee systems on ships passing through the Strait of Hormuz. Barojerdi also stated, he revealed, Iran plans to establish a whole new strait management system and Egypt's management of the Suez Canal, requiring ships passing through this strait must obtain permits from Iran and pay respective transit and service fees. It looks like Iran indeed plans to impose long-term charges in the Strait of Hormuz, although in the current situation, many traders are willing to pay this toll. However, if Iran wants to collect this toll in the Strait of Hormuz after the war as well, this will also bring new friction points to the development of the current Middle East situation. But overall, Iran, which has tasted the benefits of a semi-blockade of the Strait of Hormuz, and which is to compensate for its losses in this war, obviously has the motivation to prolong the semi-blockade of the Strait of Hormuz, extend it further. Regarding the blockade of the Strait of Hormuz, it is the US that is anxious, not Iran. But recently, there is a popular theory that the US's target in launching the war is to blockade the Strait of Hormuz. The purpose is to push up oil prices, to let us oil and gas capital profit, even triggering the rise of oil prices. The US can maintain its petrodollar, maintain the grand strategy of dollar hegemony. The US can only maintain the petrodollar, maintain the theory of the big game of dollar hegemony. This is typical. No matter what happens, it will always be interpreted in a way that benefits the United States. It's also a different kind of American mindset being overwhelmed. But as long as you see how anxious Trump is now, you'll know this statement doesn't hold water. At 7:26 p.m. on March 30th, Trump posted a message. The United States is having serious discussions with a new, more rational regime We have ended our military operations in Iran. Great progress has already been made. But if for any reason an agreement is not reached promptly, it is very likely to be reached. And if the Strait of Hormuz is not open for business immediately, we will bomb and completely destroy all their power plants, oil wells, and Karg Island, possibly including all seawater nitrogen plants, to put an end to our pleasant stay in Iran. Trump has already become frantic in trying to get Iran to open the Strait of Hormuz, just like that. Yet, to block the Strait of Hormuz, it's completely misinterpreted. Early in the morning on the 30th, Trump proclaimed again, as a gift to America, Iran will allow, from the local time of March 30th, 20 oil-laden tankers to pass through the Strait of Hormuz. But in reality, these on March 28th, posted on social media, the Iranian government has agreed to the new release of 20 Pakistani vessels through the Strait of Hormuz. Henceforth, there will be 2 ships passing through the strait daily. Then Trump took this as his achievement. The most crucial point is, before the outbreak of war on February 28th, about 130 ships passed through the Strait of Hormuz between US and Japan. This traffic volume, compared to before the war, is just a drop in the bucket. This Iran war has already deeply shaken the dominance of the US dollar because Middle Eastern countries, the so-called fantasy of relying on America for security, was shattered for the first time in this war. The US military base suffered heavy losses. America cannot even protect its own base, let alone protect Middle Eastern countries. This shakes the foundation of the dollar's hegemony. And once Iran normalizes tolls on the Strait of Hormuz, if realized, then it means Gulf countries must look to Iran to enter and exit the Strait of Hormuz. This will severely damage the dollar's hegemony, rather than maintain the dollar's hegemony, although rising oil prices indeed benefit U.S. oil and gas capital. But the issue, benefiting U.S. oil and gas capital, is not equivalent to benefiting America. The high inflation problem brought by rising oil prices has completely dispelled the Fed's rate cut expectations this year and increased the Fed's rate hike expectations. This not only exacerbated liquidity tensions in the U.S. financial market, causing the U.S. stock market to fall, it even easily leads to a major problem in U.S. debt. Compared to the small profits of oil and gas capital, the U.S. stock market and debt issues are what Trump is most troubled by. Otherwise, Trump wouldn't have been so anxious before. So the longer Iran blocks the Strait of Hormuz, the more anxious Trump becomes. Otherwise, Trump wouldn't be desperate, constantly increasing troops in the Middle East, trying to find a place to land, to threaten Iran to open the Strait of Hormuz. Trump's pseudo-military strategy cannot truly cool down oil prices, as long as Iran continues this substantial semi-blockade of the Strait of Hormuz. The possibility of Trump having to deploy troops, conduct ground warfare, becomes increasingly likely. Judging from Trump's incoherent remarks over the past week, Trump obviously did not anticipate Iran daring to block the Strait of Hormuz, lacked relevant contingency plans. That's why Trump currently seems a bit at a loss. Wants to leave, but can't, because no matter how Trump plays with his pseudo-strategy, as long as Iran does not actually open the Strait of Hormuz, then everyone knows Trump is just talking nonsense. So, in the next half month, the United States and Iran could potentially see an escalation of conflict centered around forcing Iran to open the Strait of Hormuz and engaged in. If the United States fails in this amphibious operation, it would deal a heavy blow to American hegemony. But if Trump doesn't engage in the amphibious operation, in the event of Iran closing the Strait of Hormuz or imposing charges, then withdrawing, it would be no different from surrender. And the dominance of the dollar would also be in jeopardy. So now Trump is in a state of being caught in a dilemma. I am Shingwang Dubai. Welcome to Like and Follow. Let's see each other in the next video.